Welcome back, everybody, to the part 2 of Unreal Engine tutorial series. We are super excited that you guys made it till here. What are we going to learn today?
I mean, if you didn't make it till here, I don't know what you were doing.
doing.
You were only downloading the engine. Okay, we're super excited about today because we're actually inside the engine. We're going to teach you guys how to navigate around the scene. We're going to teach you guys how to add an object to your scene, then go ahead and scale that object, make it bigger, make it smaller, rotate it, move it around the scene. And then we're also going to quickly use the starter content to make a scene and then add particles like fire and smoke. So all of the basics that you need to understand what the interface looks like. Are we ready?
Let's go.
Let's do this. Okay, so as you begin looking at your scene right now, you're looking at the main interface of Unreal Engine 5, right? And the one section that is taking up the majority of the real estate is your viewport, which is this big box right here. This is where you're going to be looking at all of your creations, right? Everything that you create in 3D is going to be right here in your viewport. If this is your first time looking at a viewport, well, this is where you are going to see all of your skyscrapers and your forests and jungles and rivers. That is where all the exciting things happen. Now, there's a lot more things at the very top. Some things are on the right side. There's some tabs at the bottom, and we're going to cover all of those. But first, let's just learn how we can move around the scene, right?
Yeah.
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, Farhad, you played video games in the past, have you?
I think so.
You played Counter-Strike?
Oh, of course.
Yes. Remember when you died, like all the time? I remember that.
Free cam.
This is exactly how you move around Unreal Engine. So other 3D softwares, if you're familiar with them, they might have different controls. Inside Unreal Engine, you move around like the free cam of Counter-Strike. Basically, you're using WASD, right? That's your basic movement. Now, if you go ahead and click WASD, as you can see our keystrokes on the left side of the screen, nothing actually happens because they're locked. In order to unlock them, first, you need to use your mouse. So let's pretend that right now, your view right now is a human view, and these are your eyes, the viewport. If you want to move your neck, you're going to hold right-click on your mouse and then just move your mouse. That is like moving your neck.
Yes.
Now, let's say you want to start moving towards a direction, right? We're going to do that by hitting W to move forward, right? S to move backward, A to move left, D to move right, E to ascend, to go up, and Q to descend. Now, if you go ahead and combine all of these while moving your mouse, you're going to get something like this. So I just want to go ahead and move around. So I'm basically just moving my mouse to the left side. So my neck is constantly moving to the left. And I'm holding right click and I'm just pressing D, right? Holding D. And then I can go A, and I can go S to go back, W to move forward, Q to move down, and E to move up. Now, if you're, again, coming in from other 3D softwares, these controls might be a little weird for you in the beginning, but trust me, me and Farhad had the same feeling in the beginning. After a while,
You'll get used to it.
We got used to it, right? Yeah. Okay.
And for those of you who are using laptop and asking, can we do it with a touchpad? Yes, you can, but go get yourself a mouse. There is no point using touchpad in Unreal Engine.
Go get a mouse. It's just not going to work out without a mouse. Honestly, we don't recommend it. I'm sure there's some weird pro that can use a trackpad and do it, but seriously, it's just much easier with a mouse, so use a mouse. And now, the next thing that I have to tell you guys about is your camera speed. Well, technically speaking, right now we're moving at a specific speed. We can't really change it. Let's say we're really far away from whatever we're looking at in the scene. We want to move quicker, right? That's possible thanks to this little icon at the top right corner right here, which is your camera speed. If you click it, you can see that right now we're at a value of 1. Of course, if you go ahead and decrease it to 0.33, it's going to be much slower. As you can see, we're trying to move, but
very slow. Like a turtle.
Yeah. Like a turtle. So we can go ahead and increase this value, right, to something like 3 and look at what happens now. Now, Farhad, why do we have the capability to move and change our camera speed?
Because Unreal Engine is built for creating giant scenes. So imagine you have the whole valley, you have the whole mountain, and you want to go from one city to another. It will take you ages. So you can increase your camera speed.
Absolutely. And there are ways you can move around the scene even quicker than moving your mouse and keyboard, like actually just searching for an item and directly going to it. And that button, by the way, that shortcut is F. So once you have something selected in your scene and it's too far away, you don't even want to move towards it, you can go ahead and click F on your keyboard for focus.
Oh.
And boom, you're going to go right to your object, whatever it is. So let's go back to the camera speed. I want to teach you guys a little shortcut that we didn't even know about in the very beginning when we started Unreal Engine. When you're moving around, right now our camera speed is at 3, right? If you want to go ahead and actually decrease the camera speed while you're moving, you're going to go ahead and scroll down on your middle mouse scroll button and then scroll up to increase your camera speed. Scroll down to decrease, scroll up to increase, scroll down to decrease, scroll up to increase. And that's like super fast right now. Until now, I think it's pretty clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this is not the only way you can actually navigate around your scene. Let's say, Farad, can you hand me like a bottle? Okay, let's say you're eating a sandwich, okay, and you want to still be able to navigate around your scene. Unreal Engine has that capability for you. So if you actually go ahead and use the left mouse button, right, you'll actually be able to move around. So if you left mouse button, drag your mouse, you're actually walking around your scene. And you can actually go ahead and maybe look to the right. So I'm still holding the left mouse button. I don't even know how to describe this movement, but going forward and backward makes you walk. And then turning right is basically just turning your mouse to the right. And I can walk backwards, turn right, walk backwards, and then look to the left, walk forward. So I'm actually just holding this and still being able to navigate around the scene. Another button that you can use is the middle mouse button. Instead of scrolling, now we're going to hold it. And using that, we can basically just like, imagine if you were like squatting and then just moving your body, right, to peek towards different angles, and the left mouse button. These two buttons allow you to actually move with just the mouse itself.
Give me the sandwich.
Thank you. Take the sandwich. This might come in handy, right, sometimes?
Yep, 100%.
I think some people might use it. So all of this allows you to move around the scene. So you can go ahead and pause this video if you want to just practice moving around the scene, or if you just want to continue with us, let's go ahead and do that. Because the next thing we're going to do, Farhad, is
add a cube to the scene.
That's right. So if you're in a 3D software, more often than not, you want to go ahead and add items to your scene. Now, if this was Blender or Maya, or Cinema 4D or Houdini, you're probably just going to go ahead and start with a primitive shape, which is your cube, your sphere, your cylinders, and then take those and deform them, sculpt them, and turn them into a chair, a table. But this is not primarily a function of Unreal Engine. Although we're teaching you modeling in this Unreal Engine 5 beginner tutorial series, the primary function of Unreal Engine is to build large worlds. And so more often than not, you'll be bringing already made assets from other softwares or online marketplaces like Sketchfab into Unreal Engine. In our case, though, we're still going to teach you all the basic functions. And so, Farhad, let's go ahead and add a cube.
Let's go and do it.
Okay. So in order to add an object, we're going to have to go and travel to the top bar right here. This icon right here is going to be your friend when you want to add anything to your viewport, right? We're going to click it. There are two sections. There's a Get Content section, which is basically allowing you to either bring in content from your PC, local drive, or the online marketplaces like Quixelbridge, which is going to be coming very handy. It's free, 15,000 assets. We're going to touch that later on. We're going to go to the Place Actors panel, which is all the section right here. And this is all the stuff you can add in the engine itself. We're going to look for shapes, and then we're going to go to cube. You have two options. You can either drag and drop the cube into your scene, just like that, place it in your scene, or Control-Z to undo. We can go ahead and just click it, right? Just click on cube, and it's just going to spawn it in our scene. And then we're going to go ahead and navigate around the cube. And Farhad, what do we want to do next?
Let's move it.
Okay, so I think naturally when you're looking at a cube and you see 3 arrows, what do you think the 3 arrows do?
What do you think? I think they're going to move them.
I think they're going to move them, right? So I'm sure you are curious, if you've never moved a 3D object, to just go ahead and click one of these arrows and then drag on them, right? Boom, you're actually moving the cube. And you might be asking yourself, why are there 3 arrows? Well, in the 3D world, we have the 3 axes, the x-axis, the y-axis, which are perpendicular, and then the z-axis. So we're trying to create them for you. Yes.
Well, if you look at them, they're down there.
We need to hire a motion graphics artist. This is not going to work out. You can actually look to the bottom left right here. As you move around the scene, it's showing you the 3 axes that we have. So if you look closely, we have the x-axis flat on the ground, so in this direction. We have the y-axis in green, so x in red, y in green, and blue, which is z, which is vertical, right? And the same thing applies to these arrows right here. So we can go ahead and move our cube in the x-axis, right or left. We can move it in the y-axis by holding the other arrow and then dragging the mouse, or in the z-axis, right? And that's allowing you to move the cube in anywhere that you want in the 3D space. Now, some people might just want to move it in all axes at the same time. You can do that by holding the middle part of this icon, and then that way you can move it around in any way that you want.
Is there another way that I can move my object?
Absolutely.
Show me.
And I think this is the part where we have to actually talk about what else is in our interface on the screen right now. So we know this is our 3D viewport already, right? If you look to the right, there's two tabs, right? There's the outliner tab, and then there's the details tab. You're going to be using these a lot. And the outliners tab is basically showing you all of the objects or items, particles, anything that is present in your 3D viewport. Even if you can't see it, it might be somewhere else in your 3D viewport, somewhere else in your scene, somewhere else in your world. You're going to see it in the outliner tab right here, right? And right now, I have my cube selected. That's why it's highlighted. And you can actually see the cube highlighted here as well. Now, once you highlight and select an object, actually what happens down here, Farhad?
The details panel populates all the information for that specific object.
Absolutely. So if you want to go ahead and change any of the settings for any of the objects selected, you'll be presented with the details panel right here that you can scroll through, and there are tons of options.
So many.
So many of them. Now, Farhad, we know this. We've used Unreal Engine a lot. You don't actually use all of these.
Nope.
You do not.
Nope.
It's good to know what they do, but you will learn their use cases over time once you actually need them for your use case. So I don't recommend you going crazy about how many options there are, because I know the problem with a lot of people when they first start out on Unreal Engine 5 is the amount of options and buttons available. That's true for any 3D software, but Unreal Engine 5 probably more than others. So don't worry, we're going to talk to you guys about all the stuff that you need. Right now, all you need to pay attention to is you have this cube, you have the outliner that has all of the objects in your scene, and then you have the details panel. Because we've selected the cube, we can see the details of our cube.
What is that I button beside cube?
This one?
Yes.
Oh, this is basically saying, hey, do you want to see the cube or do you want to hide it? If you click it, it hides the cube. And you can do this with any object in your scene. You can go ahead and hide any object in your scene. The shortcut for that is H. So H is going to hide it, and we can go ahead and hit the unhide button to go ahead and unhide it. Now, once you have your cube selected, Farhad, you asked me if there's any other way we can go ahead and move an object in the scene, right?
Yes.
So one way is to use the viewport. Another way, if you want to be real precise, is to use the values right here. So in almost every object that is going to be in your scene will have a transform function at the very top, a transform panel, a transform dropdown at the very top of the details panel. That includes your location in the scene, your rotation in the scene, and your scale. How big and small is your object in the scene? Now, these values are 3, right? We got the X, we got the Y, and we got the Z, right? The red, the green, and the blue. And you can independently go ahead and change these values without touching the viewport. So right now, my X is at 151.4. If I just go ahead and type in a number like 50, I can just go ahead and hit 50, and I have a precise, exact unit of 50 on the x-axis, which is great if you're trying to build actual buildings that need to be precise. Unless you're building something quickly, you don't need it to be precise, right? So if you don't need it to be precise, there's another way to do it. We can go ahead and, if you look closely, what happens to my cursor, Farhad? Do you see that?
It turns into a slider.
Right? If I
Slide it
just
now.
go ahead and click my left mouse button, and then slide to the right or slide to the left, that is actually a really cool way, really neat way to move objects around as well. We can do the same with the Y, and we can do the same with the Z.
What is that arrow beside all the 3 boxes?
Oh, so the arrow is basically saying, do you want to reset all these values back to 0? Because you might have played around with it. You might want to quickly go ahead and reset everything back to world origin. You can do that by clicking that arrow, and it brings it to the world origin. Very handy in a lot of use cases, and we'll see that later on. Now, Farhad, let's go ahead and rotate this object.
Let's do it.
Okay, so just like the location, there's multiple ways we can go ahead and rotate. The viewport way to rotate is basically going to this button at the top. So let's talk about another experience that you'll have right here. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4 buttons to click on here. The first one is basic selection. So if you just want to select objects around the scene. The second one is your translate, your location, which is what we were using just now. And there's a shortcut right beside it. If you look, it says W. The next one is for rotation, which is E. So let's hit E, right? And the last one is scale, R. So W, E, R.
So you can select it by selecting one of the options there, or you can use your keyboard.
Absolutely. So we use W to move the object around.
Yes.
To quickly rotate the object, we're going to hit E. You're going to have to memorize the WER, by the way. It's going to be used all the time. And now we can rotate. So we have a different icon, but it works exactly the same way. Farhad, we want to go ahead and rotate on the X-axis.
Let's do it.
Rotate, just like that.
Yes.
Rotate on the Y-axis, just like that. And rotate on the Z-axis, just like that. And you're actually seeing the units of rotation, right? 40 degrees, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So you can be precise, right?
Can we use the detail panel similarly?
Oh, yeah, of course, absolutely. You want to be precise with that? 50 on the X-axis, or let's go 120 on the Y-axis. Boom, just like that. And we can reset all of that using the arrow. Boom, and reset again. Now, what is left to do? The last option.
Scale it. Let's make it big.
Okay, cool. So let's bring this guy up. W on my keyboard, bring it up again. And then R for scale, or use this button right here. And we can go ahead and scale it on one axis only, right? Or we can scale it on another axis, or maybe in the Z axis, right? But Farhad, why do we have, see, I can use a slider as well here to do the exact same thing, but let's go ahead and reset this. Why do we have this lock button?
If you want to lock the proportion, the ratio of your scaling, X, Y, and Z, all at the same time.
So you want to keep the cube in the same shape,
Yes.
but you want to basically scale it up. That is the lock button. So the lock button is going to act the same way as if you were to hit this middle part and then scale. So let me try it again. Hit the cube. Boom. Just like that. That's really cool.
Faraz, I have a question.
Yes.
What if I wanted to rotate 45 degrees?
Like precisely.
Exactly.
Okay, let's
Because
try
I
to do
saw
that.
your rotation was by every 10 degree.
That's true. So, well, we have one option where we can go ahead and type in 45 here in the X, for example, axis. But let's say you want to use the on-screen icon here. So right now it's only snapping to every 10 degrees. So we cannot get 45. And that's because we have these three options enabled at the top. If you look closely, they're all blue. That means they're checked. We can go ahead and uncheck them. What they do is they snap your location, they snap your rotation, and they snap your scale to a certain unit so that you can be precise. So we can either go ahead and turn it off for, this is for your location, rotation, and scale. So for rotation, if you turn it off, basically we can rotate freely, and you can see I can be very precise with where I want to go. And it's very smooth. But if I want to go ahead and actually change this to a different value and turn the snapping back on, I can go to 5 degrees and then try to do 45 this way. Boom. Just like that.
Done.
We got it precise.
Awesome.
Okay. This is really cool. We learned about the interface. We learned how to navigate around the scene. We learned how to add an object to the scene, how to move it around, how to rotate it, and how to scale it. Farhad, what are we going to do next?
Let's look at what else we have on our display.
Okay. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
First things first. This is going to be the most important button in your entire life if you're using Unreal Engine 5. That is your save button, right? Up until this point, we haven't saved anything. Now, you might be used to the Control S, but that doesn't work here. You want to go ahead all the way to the bottom right. This is where you save every single thing in your project, right? Anything that you've done to different levels, different scenes, different objects, all of it will appear here. Right now, we haven't had many changes. We only have one object. So we only have to save this, but usually you'll see a really long list, maybe like 36, 35 that you have to save. And you can actually choose to uncheck some of them if you don't want to save them. We want to save everything all the time, so save selected. Right now, we're safe. So if Unreal Engine 5 crashes,
We got it back.
we got it back. And how often does Unreal Engine 5 crash?
Every day, every time, every week, every seconds.
We have huge scenes, so the chance of crashing can be high compared to other software. So make sure you save all the time. That's how you save. So we know about the outliner, right, Farhad?
Yes.
We know about the details panel.
Yes.
Let's just quickly talk about what's at the top and then at the bottom, okay? At the top here, very top right here, File, Edit, Window, Tools. This is very similar to other 3D software or other softwares like After Effects, Premiere Pro. These are where you find the general settings of your software, right, that you can change. And we're going to go through them, some of them, the ones that we need for this project. At the bottom here, you're looking at a tab that says Main. That's your current level.
What is a level?
So you know how you have scenes in Blender?
Yes.
Like I have a scene in the jungle, then I have a scene in basically on the mountains. You have different scenes, right? I don't want the scenes to be using the same outliner, same viewport. I want to create a new scene. These are levels, and because video games have levels, right? That's what they call levels.
Yes.
So different levels in your game. Right now we have one, which is the main, and we're going to create a new one. We're going to teach you how to create a new one in a moment. But just looking at that tab, you know that you have the main level open right now. In the bottom here, you have another basically level of tabs, and there's a save button right there, but we recommend using the one down here. It saves everything. And then you have basically the add function for different objects and a bunch of different things that we can use. The one that you will primarily use is the simulate button right here, because at the end of the day, this is a game engine. And if you wanted to start playing inside the game, you'll use the simulate button. The bottom bar right here, these are your viewport and your basically current settings. So we've talked about some of them. On the left side, you're looking at other settings that we're going to touch on later on.
Hold up! Did you know that you can use photogrammetry to create highly photorealistic scenes by taking what exists in the real world into 3D?
We've been using Polycam to do exactly that using our phone and drone.
That's right, and shout out to them for sponsoring this video, giving you guys 30% off their promo plan.
The promo code is bad.
No, 30% off their plan, not the promo plan. No, they don't have a promo plan. 30% off their plan.
Pro plan.
Pro plan.
Use the code bad decisions in the link in the description.
Let's continue.
Let's move to the bottom of the screen, and we're looking at something called the content drawer. The content drawer is your most used function in terms of bringing in assets to your scene. It's basically like your folder, like your drive.
Like your directory, right?
Directory, exactly. There's two ways to open it up. The quicker way is to use Control Space, which is a shortcut. But if you don't want to do that, you can always go ahead and click the content drawer right here. So if you're looking at the content drawer right now, on the left side, you can see all the folders that make up the directory. In the middle section right here, you're looking at filters that filter what you're seeing in the folders. So if I have, for example, the content folder selected, I'm looking at everything present in the content folder on the right side, and I can filter through those, because you can imagine you might have thousands of assets and you might just want to see photos. I don't want to see 3D meshes. I don't want to see materials. I just want to see photos, like actual photos that I've imported. I can go ahead and filter them out by just clicking them. So right now you can see I don't have a material instance. We'll talk about what that is later on. That's why I don't see anything when I filter it. You can go ahead and add more filters to the left side right here using this button. Okay. Now, if this is still unclear to you, I'm going to actually show you guys what this looks like. So if you were to go ahead and open up our actual file, so project file, this is where we have the Unreal Engine project file that we created earlier on.
Yeah, Star Wars Final.
And then we go to content folder. So right before we actually go into the content folder, if you want to go ahead and open up your project, aside from using the launcher itself, you can just go ahead and double click on this UE logo right here. That will open up the Unreal project directly. The content folder is precisely what all of this is. So this content folder is exactly the same as this content folder. And we're looking at the main build data, and we're seeing that right here as well. So one cheeky way to go ahead and add objects to your Unreal Engine project file is by dragging and dropping them literally into this directory right here. Perfect. Now, Farhad, what should we do next?
Let's look at how we can create a new level.
That's going to be really useful because right now we're in the default level, but let's say you want to go ahead and create a new level, a blank level for yourself. Let's go ahead and do that right now. So the way we like to do that is by going to File at the top left and then hitting New Level right here.
Yes.
Okay? So New Level is going to open up this menu right here, which gives us 4 options. We have the open world and the empty open world. The open world comes in with a landscape. You can even see the mountain range at the back. Low poly landscape, so it's not very detailed, but it comes with some of the landscape functionalities. We're not building a whole world today, so we're not going to be using that. The empty open world comes with the landscape options without all the lighting. And when I say lighting, if you've noticed, we have clouds right now in our blank project, like the one that we have opened up. You don't get that in other 3D software. You just start with usually a gray screen. This is a game engine again, so that's why you have clouds and stuff built in. We can go ahead and remove that by hitting empty open world. But for our case, we're going to be using basic or empty level. So basic comes with the same open world without all the landscape functionalities. And empty level is basically absolutely
Empty.
nothing,
Dark.
right? Dark. It's lonely.
Yeah.
So we're not going to go there. We're going to go to basic. Okay. So open up basic. Now, when you open up basic, you look at the top. It says untitled because your level at this moment is not named. If you want to go ahead and name it, we have to probably start making some changes here and then try to save our file. So let's go ahead and work with our scene. If you look to the right side, you'll see that we have in our scene right now, Farhad,
The default lighting.
yes, a default lighting and the floor and a player start.
What is a player start?
Good question. So the player start is basically where your 3D player is going to start the game, right? If this was a game, where would the player spawn? That's the player start. Are we going to use it right now?
No.
Delete.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So we have the lighting and the floor, right? This is our floor. Let's move back. Look at it. This is our floor. And then we have the lighting. We can close this, drop down, hide it. We can't see anything. Unhide it. And we see our cloud and our sky. Now, I think this is going to be probably the coolest thing for a lot of people. If you go ahead and hit Control and L, you'll see that little thing that pops up on your screen. Hold Control and L and then move your mouse and see the magic of Unreal Engine.
The sun is moving. The sun is moving.
And you can see the sun moving and the light reacting in real time. Guys,
This is why you're here. This is why you're choosing Unreal Engine.
yes, because if this was other 3D software, you probably, first of all, don't have a beautiful sky to begin with, a beautiful like sun setting and sun rising with the clouds reacting to the shadows in real time with no noise, right? This is all happening thanks to Unreal Engine's Lumen capabilities, which we're going to cover later on. But right now, I just want to quickly take your attention to the right side to see what we have in the outliner, right? Real quick. If you just go ahead and hide these, you'll know exactly what they do. The clouds are clouds, hide them. The sky sphere is basically the sphere that, if you go all the way back, is covering our sky. We have the sky atmosphere, which is literally the color of the sky. We have the height fog. If I bring back the sky atmosphere, the height fog is our ground level fog, right? And directional light is the sun, right? These are pretty self-explanatory. And then lastly, you have the skylight, which basically diffuses light and reflects light in your scene. So if you look at the floor, you'll notice. Cover this all later in the lighting chapter. Don't worry. So Farhad, what do we want to do now?
Let's save our level and let's tell everybody how important it is to have a folder structure in your content browser.
I actually agree with you. So if you want to save, we're going to click unsaved right here. We're going to save, and it's going to ask us to save our level because we haven't done that yet. So in our content browser, which is the same thing here, right? It's opening up here. We can go ahead and create a new folder by right-clicking on the content folder. This is where we're going to create all of our folders, right? You don't want to go to your engine folder and create a new folder. That's the default engine files that come with every project that you open. You don't want to mess around with them unless you're touching the plugins. In the content folder, we're going to create a new folder, right-click, new folder, and then name it to levels, right?
Yeah.
And inside levels, we're going to call this spaceship, right? And then hit enter. It's saved. And at the top left, we'll see that the name is now spaceship. On the top right in the outliners panel, we also have a spaceship level, right? That's our spaceship level.
How do we move from one level to another?
It's a very good question. Okay, so there's two ways to do that. First, you can find the other level inside your content drawer. If I go to my content, remember main, that was our main level. And if you don't know what each of these objects are, bottom left corner of every object in your content drawer says what it is, which category it belongs to. This is a level. So I'm going to double click it. We're going to jump back into the main level, right? And if I'm going to go to my other level, I can either go to levels here, spaceship, double click, or at the top left here, file, I can go to recent levels, and then I have spaceship and main. So I'll click spaceship.
Oh, wow.
And I'm back here. Perfect.
Guys, remember the check mark that we didn't check in the beginning, the starter pack, when we wanted to create our project? Now it's time to bring it back to the engine. How we can do it, Faraz?
So by going to your content drawer, right, I'm going to drag this guy up so it's not annoying us. On the top left here, we're looking at an option that says add. And this is where we can add things to our content drawer, not to our viewport, but to our content drawer. And this is where we can create materials, things of that sort. The other way you can do this is by just right-clicking here, right? But I'm just going to go here. And we're going to go all the way to the top to add feature or content pack. Now, this is very useful for a lot of people. They don't know this, but basically, this is where you can add in all the functionalities like a third-person game mode. And if you look at the details, it tells you what it brings in. It brings in the main mannequin character. It brings in the control rig to allow you to play that character, right? You can add a first-person pack or a VR pack. All of that is available right here. We're going to go to the content. And that allows us to bring in the starter content. And as we told you, it brings you some materials to begin with, some textures, some meshes, particles, and we're going to go ahead and add it to our project. So if you forgot to do that earlier on, you can always add it at a later stage in your project. Close that. And our content drawer right now in the content folder has now the starter content. You can see it here as well. So let's go ahead and just see what we've got. And if you want to go ahead and explore it, we have materials. And that's what I want to play with. So quickly, let's just bring in a cube into our scene so we can apply the materials to it. Cube. You should already know how to do this. Oh no, I spawned it right here. Farhad, how do I bring it to the middle?
Reset it. Reset the location.
Boom, just like that. And how do I scale it?
Press R.
R.
And drag.
Boom, beautiful. Okay, let's bring the cube up. Nice. So right now we've got the floor, we've got the cube, and I want to go ahead and see what I've got in the materials pack. So I'm going to open it up. Now, these spherical objects that you see with the different textures, these are all materials, and the name for it is down there at the bottom left. And I can scroll through. All of these materials are available for free in the very beginning. There's thousands more materials that we can download from Quixel Bridge that we're going to cover later on, but these come as a starter content, and they have a special functionality that we're going to talk about later on in the course, which is going to make them super useful. I'm just going to go ahead and bring a gold material to my cube. So one way to add a material is simply dragging, so holding the material, dragging it, and dropping it on a specific object in your scene. Boom. Ooh. Just like that. And then Farhad, should we make our floor silver?
Let's go with the burnished steel.
Okay, boom, just like that. Look at the reflection of the cube on the floor. And then Farhad, Control L.
Change the lighting. Guys, it's chapter 2, and you already made the scene.
Dude, look at that. Wow, look at the colors. I'm gonna go ahead and actually bring in another cube, but instead of doing that, I'm gonna teach you guys how to duplicate. 2 ways to duplicate. Control D to duplicate. It's already created a new cube. You can see it. I can drag it, or I'm going to delete that. The other way is by holding Alt while the item is selected and then dragging the arrow to duplicate. And I'm going to make this a bit smaller. I'm going to bring it down here. Okay, so the last thing I want to do, as we promised, is to bring in fire and smoke into our scene. We're going to go back into our folder structure to starter content by clicking the top right there, and then go to particles, right? Particles is your fire, smoke, water, things of that sort. And we can see a bunch of particles that are already ready to use by just simply dragging them and dropping them in our scene. We have fire.
Make it bigger.
Okay, I'm going to hit R and then scale this fire and then make it bigger. Boom, just like that, we have fire. This is so cool. Make it even bigger, just slightly bigger. Bring it back here. And
oh my God, the cube is on fire.
The cube is on fire. And Farah, can we go ahead and add some smoke?
It already has smoke.
Like even more. Like more steam. Look at that. Add some steam.
Wow.
Dude, this is really cool. Oh, the steam is in the front. Okay, let's bring it all the way back here. Let's make it bigger as well. Because like we have a lot of steam and smoke coming out. Okay, this is pretty cool. You cannot lie. This is pretty damn cool. Some smoke maybe. Why not? Right? And if I hit Control L, I can actually have the lighting react to the smoke as well. Look at that. Do you see that? Do you see that? This is awesome.
Guys, this is only chapter 2, and you already know how to create a scene, bring in some fire and material.
That's right. So if you guys enjoyed this, make sure you guys go ahead to the next chapter where we're going to be teaching you guys how to model inside Unreal Engine.
See you guys in chapter 3.
See you.